You wake up tomorrow morning, check your phone, and feel that familiar surge of irritation at the news headlines. Your heart rate quickens, your jaw clenches, and suddenly you're arguing with strangers on the internet. By noon, you've eaten that donut you didn't want, snapped at a colleague, and felt that crushing weight of another day slipping through your fingers like sand. Sound familiar? Here's the shocking truth that will make you question everything. You are not the master of your own mind. You are its prisoner. The mind is everything. What do you think you become? Buddha? But what if Buddha was only half right? What if the real question isn't what you think, but who is doing the thinking? Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor who ruled the Roman Empire at its peak, discovered something terrifying in his private journals, the same journals that would later become the Meditations. He realized that even the most powerful man in the known world was a slave, not to barbarian tribes or political rivals, but to something far more insidious, his own untrained mind. Think of yourself as an old person, Aurelius wrote in desperation. Don't let her be a slave any longer. Don't let yourself be jerked around like a marionette by antisocial impulses. Don't be dissatisfied with your present fortune or afraid of the future. The emperor had uncovered the ultimate paradox of human existence. We fiercely defend our independence from external control while voluntarily surrendering to internal tyranny. We protest when someone tells us how to dress, think, or live, yet we allow our emotions to dictate our every move without question. Fast forward to millennia, and the conspiracy has only deepened. Silicon Valley has weaponized this ancient weakness, creating algorithms that know your emotional triggers better than you do. Social media platforms generate billions in revenue by exploiting the same puppet strings that controlled Roman citizens' fear, outrage, desire, validation. Consider this. When was the last time you consciously chose to feel angry? Yet anger chooses you multiple times a day. When did you decide to crave that midnight snack? Yet the craving commandeers your body and marches you to the refrigerator. You wouldn't let a stranger walk into your home and rearrange your furniture, yet you allow random emotions to rearrange your entire day. Dr. Daniel Kahneman's groundbreaking research in behavioral psychology reveals that we make over 35,000 decisions daily, yet 95% of them are made by our subconscious mind, the part we don't control. We're literally sleepwalking through our own lives, convinced we're the pilot, when we're actually just passengers on autopilot. Here's where it gets psychologically disturbing. Your brain doesn't distinguish between thoughts you choose and thoughts that simply appear. Neural imaging shows that thoughts emerge from unconscious processes before your conscious mind even recognizes them. By the time you think, "I'm thinking," the thought has already been thought by something else inside you. This isn't philosophy, it's neuroscience. The puppet master isn't some external force. It's the untrained, reactive part of your own mind that treats every stimulus like a command and every emotion like an emergency. You see a plate of cookies and suddenly you must eat them. Someone cuts you off in traffic and you must rage. Your ex posts a happy photo and you must feel jealous. But who issued these commands? Who decided these responses were mandatory? The most successful people throughout history, from Stoic philosophers to Buddhist monks to modern Navy SEALs, discovered the same secret. The space between stimulus and response is where freedom lives. In that microsecond gap lies the power to choose who you become. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Viktor Frankl. This isn't about suppressing emotions or becoming robotic. It's about recognizing that you are not your thoughts, You are not your feelings, and you are certainly not the puppet that dances to their tune. The question that will haunt you tonight: if you're not choosing your thoughts and emotions, and they're not choosing themselves, then what exactly is running the show in your head? What if everything you call yourself is actually a sophisticated illusion? The answer to our haunting question lies in a discovery so disturbing that most people spend their entire lives avoiding it. There is no single you making decisions. Instead, you're a battlefield where multiple psychological forces wage war for control, and whoever wins that moment gets to wear the mask of your identity. I am large. I contain multitudes. Walt Whitman. Whitman thought he was being poetic. Modern neuroscience proved he was being literal. Dr. Marvin Minsky, the father of artificial intelligence, proposed the revolutionary Society of Mind theory. What we call consciousness is actually a parliament of mental agents, each with different agendas, memories, and motivations. The angry you who explodes in traffic is not the same entity as the rational you who regrets it later. They're different programs running on the same hardware. This explains the maddening inconsistency of human behavior. Why do you set an alarm to wake up early, then hit snooze when it rings? Because the you who set the alarm is literally a different psychological entity than the you who hits snooze. They're not communicating, they're competing. Ancient philosophers intuited this truth. Plato described the soul as a chariot pulled by two horses' own noble, one base with reason as the charioteer struggling to maintain control. But Plato underestimated the problem. It's not just two horses, it's a stampede. Here's where the conspiracy gets personal. Your emotions aren't just feelings, they're hostile takeovers of your cognitive system. Neuroscientist Dr. Joseph Ledoux discovered that emotional responses bypass rational thought entirely through the amygdala's low road to action. Your emotional brain can literally commandeer your body before your thinking brain knows what's happening. This is why you can be perfectly rational about someone else's relationship problems while being completely irrational about your own. Different neural circuits, different decision makers. The you giving advice is not the you receiving it. Consider the last time you were truly angry. Can you remember making the decision to be angry? Or did anger simply arrive uninvited and start issuing commands? Say this, do that, make them pay. Your rational mind becomes a hostage, forced to justify decisions it never made. But here's the psychological thriller twist. We're not just victims of this mental chaos, we're complicit in it. We've become addicted to automatic living because making conscious choices is exhausting. It's easier to let emotions drive while we sit in the passenger seat, pretending we're in control. Dr. Roy Baumeister's research on decision fatigue reveals that we have a limited capacity for conscious choice. After making too many decisions, we default to automatic responses. This is why you can be disciplined at work but lose control at home, why you can resist temptation all day but binge at night. The modern world has weaponized this weakness. Advertisers, social media algorithms, and even well-meaning friends and family members have learned to trigger your automatic responses. They're not trying to convince your rational mind, they're trying to activate your emotional triggers and let your emotions convince you. Your mind creates elaborate stories to explain why you did what you did, but these stories are fiction. Psychologist Dr. Michael Gazzaniga's split brain research revealed that the left hemisphere of your brain is an interpreter that constantly creates explanations for behavior, even when those explanations are completely wrong. You don't eat the donut because you're hungry. You eat it because certain neural pathways fired, possibly triggered by stress, habit, or even the color of the packaging. But your interpreter mind immediately creates a story. I needed energy. I deserved a treat. Life is short. These aren't reasons. They're post hoc. justifications. This is why traditional self-help fails. It tries to change behavior by changing the story, but the story isn't driving the behavior, it's just commenting on it. You can't think your way out of automatic living. You have to systematically reprogram the automatic responses themselves. The ancient Stoics understood something that modern psychology is just rediscovering. True freedom doesn't come from getting what you want, it comes from wanting what you choose. Marcus Aurelius wasn't trying to eliminate emotions, he was trying to eliminate the automatic assumption that emotions are commands. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. But power over your mind doesn't mean controlling your thoughts, it means choosing your relationship with them. When anger arises, you don't have to follow its orders. When desire strikes, you don't have to be its servant. The emotion can exist without you becoming it. This is the difference between reaction and response. Reaction is automatic, unconscious, driven by whichever psychological force is strongest in the moment. Response is conscious, chosen, aligned with your deeper values and long-term goals. The path to mental freedom isn't about achieving perfect control, it's about developing conscious choice. Every moment presents a micro-decision. Will you react automatically or respond consciously? Will you let the strongest emotion win, or will you pause and choose? Ancient warriors knew that the first battle is always fought in the mind. Before you can conquer external challenges, you must establish sovereignty over your internal landscape. This doesn't happen through force or suppression, it happens through patient, persistent practice of conscious choice. The most successful people in history weren't those who never felt negative emotions, they were those who learned to feel them without being controlled by them. They discovered the secret that the puppet masters of the mind don't want you to know. Every string can be cut, every automatic response can be interrupted, every mental habit can be reprogrammed. But the question remains, are you ready to pick up the scissors? The moment you realize you've been sleepwalking through your own life is the moment you can finally wake up. Here's the final revelation that will either liberate you or terrify you. There is no external enemy to defeat, no grand conspiracy to expose, no puppet master to overthrow. The tyrant ruling your mind is a creation of your own neglect, a wild garden that grew toxic weeds because you forgot you were the gardener. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Joseph Campbell. Friedrich Nietzsche declared that God is dead. But he missed the deeper truth. The unconscious mind is the false god we've been worshipping. We've surrendered our divine capacity for conscious choice to the altar of automatic reaction, hoping that if we sacrifice enough of our agency, life will somehow become easier. But Søren Kierkegaard understood what Nietzsche missed. The most painful state of being is remembering the future, particularly the one you'll never have if you keep living unconsciously. Every moment you spend on autopilot is a moment stolen from the person you could become. The existentialists were right about one thing. Existence precedes essence. You are not born with a fixed nature that determines your responses. You become what you repeatedly choose, and you choose what you repeatedly practice. Every automatic reaction is a vote for the person you don't want to be. Dr. Jeffrey Schwartz's revolutionary work with OCD patients revealed something that should be taught in every school. You can literally rewire your brain through conscious practice. He discovered that the simple act of observing your thoughts without immediately acting on them creates new neural pathways. The brain you have today is not the brain you're stuck with tomorrow. This is where ancient wisdom meets cutting-edge science. The Buddhist concept of mindfulness isn't mystical mumbo-jumbo, it's neuroplasticity in action. Every time you pause between stimulus and response, you're literally rebuilding your brain's architecture. But here's the part that most mindfulness teachers won't tell you. This process is initially uncomfortable because you're fighting millions of years of evolutionary programming. Your brain is designed to automate successful behaviors to conserve energy. Conscious choice requires more energy than automatic reaction, which is why most people give up and return to mental slavery. History's most influential figures, from Marcus Aurelius to Benjamin Franklin to Steve Jobs, all discovered the same secret. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your mental habits. They didn't succeed despite their struggles with automatic thoughts and emotions. They succeeded because they learned to master them. Franklin created a systematic approach to character development, tracking his daily choices and gradually replacing negative automatic responses with positive conscious ones. Jobs practiced Zen meditation not for relaxation, but for the competitive advantage of mental clarity. These weren't spiritual practices, they were performance optimization techniques. The elite know what the masses don't. In a world of infinite distractions and emotional manipulation, the person who can think clearly has an almost unfair advantage. While everyone else reacts to life, they respond to it. While others are blown around by their emotions, they use emotions as information rather than instructions. Here's your liberation protocol, distilled from 2,500 years of philosophical and psychological research. First, recognize that thoughts and emotions are events in consciousness, not commands from consciousness. When anger arises, you don't become angry. You experience anger. This subtle shift in perspective is the foundation of all mental freedom. Second, develop the pause reflex. Between every stimulus and response, insert a conscious pause. Ask yourself, what would the person I want to become do in this situation? This simple question interrupts automatic programming and activates conscious choice. Third, practice selective attention. Your mind is constantly bombarded with millions of stimuli, but you can only consciously process a tiny fraction. Choose what deserves your attention the same way you choose what deserves your money, carefully and intentionally. Fourth, embrace discomfort as a signal of growth. Every time you choose conscious response over automatic reaction, you'll feel resistance. This isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong, it's proof that you're doing something significant. The irony of our hyper-connected age is that we've never been more disconnected from our own minds. We carry supercomputers in our pockets but can't control our own thoughts. We have access to all human knowledge but remain slaves to primitive emotional reactions. Marcus Aurelius, writing by candlelight 2,000 years ago, achieved a level of mental mastery that most people with unlimited resources never approach. Not because he was superhuman, but because he understood a simple truth. The mind is either your most powerful tool or your most dangerous enemy. There is no middle ground. Every moment of every day, you face the same fundamental choice. Will you live consciously or unconsciously? Will you respond or react? Will you be the author of your experience or the victim of it? This isn't a choice you make once and then forget. It's a choice you make thousands of times per day, in countless micro moments that seem insignificant but collectively determine the trajectory of your entire life. The puppet strings that have been jerking you around your entire life aren't made of steel, they're made of habit. And habits, unlike steel, can be broken by conscious choice consistently applied. You are not a marionette dancing to forces beyond your control. You are a human being with the unprecedented power to observe your own thoughts, question your own assumptions, and choose your own responses. This power has been dormant, not absent, waiting for you to remember who you really are. The mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. Plutarch. Your fire has been smoldering under the ashes of automatic living. The question that will define the rest of your life is not whether you have the power to rekindle it. You do. The question is whether you will choose to use that power or continue pretending you don't have it. The choice is yours. It always has been.